Saturday, April 10th, and we decided to take a 0 day today. It's gonna start pouring any minute, and the forecast on top of Blood Mountain was 45-mile-an-hour winds, and we were gonna hike from Neal Gap down to Woody Gap. So we have decided to change that plan and tomorrow start hiking from Woody Gap and go to Neal. So for my 0 day, I thought I'd give you a tour of the Above the Clouds Hostel. The owner here, Lucky, is very nice, so if you get a chance to stay here, it's a really good stay. And Nimrod, that's who I've interviewed on this video. He is an excellent cook and all around just good people. So if you get a chance and you can get in here, Above the Clouds Hostel is a nice place to stay. We've been staying at the Above the Clouds Hostel. There's actually an overflow section down there, but it's like being in a shelter. This is the outside. Got a place to sit, relax. I have to say it smells like cow manure out here because there's cows in the area. Out back, there's a cabin. They're gonna have probably 9 or 10 more at some point. This is the back. Go in here. One of the bunk rooms. Our bunk room's in the back of this building. So this is our bunk area. Got a bottom and an upper. And I'm in the Ritz-Carlton. So you can see the laundry facility. They give you a zip bag and you put your dirty clothes in it. You get that's one of the restrooms. And then this is the other restroom where it has a shower with it. There is a sink, another bunk room. There's 4 bunks on this side, on the AT side, and there's actually 2 bunks back here. And then you go into the main hall. This is the dining area. We got a bathroom up here. Somebody's in there now. And there is private quarters. And that's a private room that you can rent out. And this is the common area in here. And the kitchen. And you have the backpack room.
Well, let's see, those are through hiker cravings, you know.
And then there is a small resupply back here. So if you're looking for resupply, there's a few things you can get. And then you can pay for some pop. Yeah, some pops in here and freezer. This is the freezer. You got Ben & Jerry's and different pizza. Chimichangas. You can make it yourself. And then you're back to the front where most people come in. You come in and drop your bag. Everybody looks so serious out here. Did you get ice cream?
I did.
Ah. So that's Dan. We got Snow White over here. Relaxing. And Miss Lynn.
Yes, relaxing and reading. So nice out here. Weather's just perfect.
Yeah. And how was your hike today?
Beautiful hike. It was a short one. So 6.4 miles I think we did was all we did today.
She was ready to do more.
I wasn't sure though. I was going to save my knees. So I did a short one. I'll do
All
a
right.
short one tomorrow too.
Good
In the
job.
rain.
So guess who we have? Somebody that is fairly famous on YouTube. We are at the Above the Clouds Hostel, and this is Nimrod.
Don't be shy, Nimrod. Yeah, no, shy. That's
Yeah, who we got over here? Lucky, right?
Hey there.
Hey. Any words of advice for anybody out there in YouTube land?
Just drink 1 cup of coffee and then hike 10 miles, and then stop and eat breakfast, hike 10 miles, stop and eat lunch, hike 10 miles, stop and eat dinner, and then you'll be at Above the Clouds.
That's right. That's where we're at. So we got some breakfast going. What kind of eggs?
Scramble.
Scrambled eggs? I didn't know if it was going to be an omelet or who knows.
You don't know.
You don't ever know what I'm going to put in front of you.
So looks like there's a hash of some sort over here today. Yep. All right. Looking forward to breakfast. This is the rain we're in for, and it would be worse up on top. But we're driving over to Neil's Gap to do our shuttle, get one of the cars set up so that we have a vehicle when we finish our hike tomorrow. Terry's driving, but we just started talking about the hostel and how much we liked it. So I thought I'd give Terry a chance to explain in her own words what she thought of the hostel.
I just think, well, first of all, the camp is very clean. Second of all, the food is amazing. Every morning there's a different breakfast, and every night there's a different dinner, and they're all delicious. And the owner and Nimrod are very gracious hosts, and they make everybody feel welcome, and they're supportive of everybody no matter what your goals are. And there's no judgment as to whether you're a through hiker or a section hiker or just a day hiker. They treat everybody try to help anybody with whatever they need. So I don't think I've ever been to a place where I felt as welcome and as supported as I do here.
Oh, so you heard it from Terry, and we did hear the first time we were actually called Platinum Blazers. Do you want to explain what that is?
A Platinum Blazer is a person who has the means to be able to stay in a hotel or hostel every few nights or even every night. So I have no shame, and I am a Platinum
Blazer. So we are at the Above the Clouds Hostel, and this is the famous Nimrod. And he has graciously decided to tell me his story, how you got here, what you're all about.
Oh, no, you wanted my trail name story.
That too, definitely.
One story at a time. These are all very long stories.
All right, start out with your name then.
Okay. Does anyone know who the historic Nimrod was?
Does somebody in there does?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Master Hunter, right?
Yeah. Do you know more about him than that?
That's all I know.
Okay, that's better than most. Now, typically, when people hear the name Nimrod, they think of dork, dweeb, doofus, incompetent, so on and so forth, buffoon. And that's because of Bugs Bunny. In 1932, Bugs Bunny first called Elmer Fudd a Nimrod. And it became a part of popular culture that's what the name meant. But for 3,000 years prior to that, Nimrod was one of the most revered names in history. Originally, the historic Nimrod was biblical. He was the king of Babel, great king, great leader of men, and a great hunter before the Lord. Thus endeth the Bible lesson, because that's all the Bible says about Nimrod. But Nimrod has existed in lore and legend and myth through the ages in various cultures. He appears in great works of literature, great pieces of art, and in antiquity he was so revered he had his own constellation. But as happens with the rise and fall of cultures, things change. We usurp names, like we did with Denali, for instance. It was Mount McKinley for a while, but now it's Denali again. St. Petersburg in Russia was Leningrad for a while, but now it's St. Petersburg again. but then other places don't enjoy the same ability to regain their names. For instance, Constantinople is Istanbul, and it probably always will be. And the constellation Nimrod, which was renamed during the Roman Empire, the golden age of Greece, the Greek city-states. They had their own beliefs, their own lore, their own religion, and they renamed things, and one of them was the constellation Nimrod. And they gave it the name by which we know it to this very day, and that's Orion. Okay. So when you go out and look in the night sky and you see the constellation Orion, it was actually the constellation Nimrod. All right. And anyway, thus endeth the history lesson. Now we move on to Nimrod the Younger, and that would be us. I grew up a military brat, so I grew up all over the planet, lived in different places, went to 15 different schools during my time, from kindergarten through 12th grade. And mercifully, though, I got to spend the last 2 years in high school in the same school. And I made some local friends. This was in South Georgia. I made some local friends there. A lot of these guys had been hunting and fishing, growing up together their entire lives. And they found it tragic that I had not. So they decided they were going to take me into the woods, and they were going to teach me to be a deer hunter. So off into the woods we went, and I was given a rather cursory lesson in deer hunting. This is what a deer looks like. This is what a deer's tracks in the dirt look like. This is what a deer dropping looks like. And they pointed me at a deer trail, and they said, they're that way. And they put a rifle in my hand and said, go get one. So off I went into the woods. Well, because I figured they were messing with me and just wanted to see me wandering aimlessly in the woods, I didn't bother to tell them that I'd been shooting my entire life. I'd just never shot at anything but a target. And I'd learned how to track as a Boy Scout, so off I went down this deer track. It looked like there were fresh tracks, but I was just playing along mostly. I went down the trail for a while, found a nice shade tree and sat down and decided to wait. Well, I got lucky, and along came a 6-point buck. So I dispatched said buck and dragged it back to camp. My friends were all duly impressed. Wow, first time out and you get a 6-point buck. That's pretty impressive. Well, anyway. Well, they decided that they weren't through with my lesson in hunting, so they decided next they were going to take me into the swamp. They were going to teach me to be a hog hunter. So off we went into the swamp. And yet again, I got a rather cursory lesson. This is what a hog looks like. This is what a hog's tracks look like, so on and so forth. Once again, they put a rifle in my hands, pointed me into the swamp, and said, go get one. So off I went into the swamp. And I'm sure this time they thought I was going to be frightened and come running out of the swamp. But I fooled them. I took to the swamp like a duck to water. I was in my element. I went wandering through the swamp, having a grand old time, and I stumbled upon a small family of hogs, which I proceeded to make smaller. Anyway, I took the hog that I shot and I dragged it back to camp. Well, my friends were once again duly impressed. This time they were doubly impressed because in my cursory lesson they had omitted an important detail, and that was if I should be fortunate enough to get one, I should come back to camp and get them to help me drag it out of the swamp. But as they had not included that little detail in their lesson, I did it on my own. Now, I later learned that the best way to bring a hog out of the swamp is to butcher it in place and bring it out in pieces. But anyway, I didn't know that at the time. So, as I say, they were impressed and doubly impressed. We were sitting around the fire, and the man who became my best friend and hiking partner, his grandfather had been a Methodist minister. So he grew up with all the Bible stories, and he knew the tales, and he knew about Nimrod. And he says, you're really good at this hunting thing. You're Nimrod. Yeah, I'm Nimrod, fine. Well, a couple of years later, the same friend and some other friends from college, we were going out to the Tetons on a hiking and climbing trip, and trail names had become fashionable, so we were coming up with trail names for one another. Came around to my turn, and my friend plucked this thing out of his memory from somewhere, and he says, well, you don't need a new name. You've already got one. You're Nimrod. I said, yeah, okay, fine, I'm Nimrod. Well, a couple of years after that, we were on our first through hike together, And he says, well, the subject of your trail name has come up yet again. You going to keep the one you got? And I says, well, I've had it this long. So anyway, I remain Nimrod, and I have been Nimrod on the trail for the last 46 years. And there you have it. That is the story of Nimrod.
So you've been on different long distance trails. How many have you been on? Or how many have you completed?
A lot.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So you've got the AT done?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I've hiked parts of the PCT and parts of the CDT. I'm not a big fan of the desert, so I will probably never be a triple crowner.
Okay.
I've hiked the Long Trail and the Johnny Appleseed Trail. Some trails that people don't remember anymore because they've been incorporated into other trails. The first long distance trail I ever hiked was when I was 11 in Spain. I did part of the Camino at that time.
Wow.
And anyway, and I've been hiking ever since.
And so now you're here.
Yes.
And you are now famous for your cooking.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So was that something that you learned in your life, or is that something you picked up later in
I
life?
just make it up as I go along.
Yeah?
You know.
So it's very
Beanie
good.
weenies are really easy to cook right out of the can. You know.
He's selling himself short. Homemade sauce tonight for spaghetti, right?
Yes, that's right. That's
All right. Well, I appreciate your time and telling us the background, so thank you very much.
You're welcome. It's been my pleasure.